I'm Dr. Berney Wilkinson.
And I'm Dr. Ellen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you're watching on video, because we're going on like lots of different forms of media right now. We are on YouTube Live, which was a last minute decision.
Right.
Facebook Live, which has my phone I see is a little bit crooked there, and then we're also on Mixlr and recording. So
that's a lot of different media.
It is. So we'll see how this works out. Hopefully it works out okay, and the information and the video comes clear on every platform. Platform is the right word, I suppose. So, but welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
I'm so glad you're back. Dr. Richard is still out. He is actually hoping to come into the office today.
Yes,
so
we're hoping
to see him. We're hoping that he'll be back and ready to go and feeling a lot better. The recovery's taking him a little bit longer than he was anticipating, but he should be back soon. He's been joking with me on text messages, so that's always a good sign. So
sounds like he's at least on the up and up.
Yes,
so
yes,
very soon.
So, and he has a if he's listening now, Dr. Richard, you have a we'll just wait till you get here. We'll just leave it at that. So, anyways, today's podcast is all about bravery. It's about taking risks, which is what we're doing today with our videos and all of our different platforms and all of the different things that we're trying to do. So we're going to talk about bravery today. How does that sound?
Love that topic. In fact, wasn't I telling you right before we got here how kind of nerve-wracking it is to have so many different forms of media and all these cameras, and that's definitely not my comfort zone. So it's fitting.
Well, perfect. And so we're going to talk about bravery today, and the way that I think that we are slowly but surely almost breeding bravery out of our culture. And we're going to talk about what I mean by that in just a few minutes. But let's talk about what bravery is to begin with. There's the classic examples, Captain America. Yeah, he was sort of the epitome of bravery even before he became Captain America.
Right.
Steve Rogers. If you go back and even if you didn't read the comics and you just watched the movie, Steve Rogers in that first Captain America, the first Avenger, this scrawny, skinny,
yes,
nothing of a kid. He's standing up to these guys that are twice his size, sometimes 3 or 4 guys at the same time, standing up for what he felt was right. And, I think that a lot of people would call that brave.
Absolutely.
And it's because of that actually they chose him to be Captain America. They chose him for the Captain America project. So, bravery, that is certainly an example of what we think of with bravery, but there's others too. Risk takers.
Yes.
We often think of risk takers, people who jump out of airplanes, people who travel to space, astronauts, people who are in the military.
Yes.
These are heroes, but heroes in different ways. Certainly they're not Steve Rogers when they're flying to the moon,
right,
but they're taking risks and they're stretching the boundaries of the human experience nonetheless. So bravery comes in different forms, and we do have to make sure that we don't confuse bravery with recklessness.
Okay.
Right? You get those situations where people impulsively do things, and and they say, "Wow, I can't believe he did that." Well,
so that's different than brave.
Right. Recklessness is recklessness. It's
not thinking it through, maybe.
Yeah, it's not thinking about the consequences. It's impulsivity.
Right.
And sometimes we have to be impulsive, and it's kind of strange to say that, but sometimes we have to respond immediately to do something. But generally speaking, we want to be conscientious. We want to think about consequences and everything before we do it. So one of the things we're going to do today, as we're juggling everything, is let's begin by redefining bravery, because when we think about and we sort of create this model of bravery based upon Steve Rogers and astronauts and soldiers and things like that, what that does, I think, is that separates us from Bravery. It's like, okay, those guys are brave. I just go to work every day. Right. I don't go to a combat zone. So, they're brave. I'm not brave. But I don't think that that's right. I think that we need to broaden the definition of bravery just a little bit.
That makes sense.
So what if, for example, we considered the idea of bravery to suggest anything or any time that we step outside of our comfort zone, any time that we take a personal risk, right? If we, when you are at your job and you've been there for a long time and, you have to go to your boss and ask for a raise, that requires certain intestinal fortitudes to be able to do that.
It sure does.
So I think that would count as bravery, right?
I think that fits the definition, absolutely.
Yeah. So when we broaden this definition, we begin to include things in behaviors that I think all of us either do or should engage in on a daily basis, just about.
Absolutely.
I mean, some would say that it's brave to navigate I-4, the big interstate here in Central Florida. That requires some bravery. Dr. Ellen, you and I, we both do forensic evaluations. Mm-hmm. And so I know you were in 2 different jails yesterday.
Yes.
And so we go to jails all the time, and I think that there's some level of bravery that is required to...
I hadn't really considered that, but sure. I think back to my first time in a prison or a jail, and it was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And the anxiety is there, and you're like, what?
Absolutely.
So it does require a little bit of bravery. And I don't know about you, but when I talk to people about my work in the jails, that's the first thing that they say. Oh my gosh.
You go in the jails?
You go in the jails? Well, they're behind bars, right? No. They're sitting across a table about as big as this table here in front of us. And but they're handcuffed. Not always. Not always. So, I think that a lot of these things should be categorized in that family of bravery behaviors.
I think you're right. I love that idea of really stepping outside your comfort zone and bypassing the anxiety and acknowledging it for what it is. It's bravery.
Absolutely. But when I said earlier that I think that we're sort of getting rid of bravery, we're eliminating bravery from our lives, I think that it's all come with this idea of the need for safety. We work so hard to stay safe. Right. And it's interesting. It's an interesting paradox, I think, because we work so hard to stay safe, but yet we also know that most of the bad things that happen to us are things that are unexpected and unpredictable. So as hard as we work to stay safe, things that are going to happen oftentimes still happen. And so we're preventing ourselves from doing some of the things that we could be doing because we're trying to stay safe when... Are we really staying safe?
Are we really? What an illusion, actually.
Right.
I'm thinking about just this morning and what I had to do this morning and, wake up, make sure I eat breakfast with my children. I have eyes on them. I see where they are. And then I get in the car, come to work. I use my seatbelt, use my blinkers, make sure I obey traffic laws, all that good stuff. To come here, a safe place at work, but, how safe am I? Even just from the drive from home to work, a dozen things could happen. Right.
And so again, expanding that idea of bravery, there's a mental health condition, mental illness called agoraphobia. Mm-hmm. And agoraphobia is basically the fear of open spaces, the fear of being in a situation where you need to get to help, but you can't get to help. And, agoraphobia results in people becoming secluded. They stay in their house. Right. They refuse to leave. And it's a horrible, debilitating condition. And there was actually a great depiction of agoraphobia in the movie Copycat.
So it was Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. Yes. She played a psychiatrist that had been attacked by someone and by a serial killer, I think, because she was a psychiatrist that worked with serial killers or something. And anyways, not that this is movie minute or anything like that, but it was a great depiction because the anxiety that a person with agoraphobia feels when they have to walk out that front door is profound. It's a horrible experience for them. And so that's sort of the exaggerated form of this. But the idea that we're safe, and the idea that we're safe with anything, a lot of times people, feel like, okay, well, I don't want to take any risks with work because I have this safe job. I get paid every other week.
It's a guaranteed paycheck and things are going well.
Yeah, exactly. But how safe is that? I mean, we hear about people all the time, companies closing their doors and, companies being bought out, huge companies being bought out, and all of these people with all the seniority, well, they get replaced with the new company's people. And so as confident and as sure and as safe as that job felt, well, now it's gone.
Right.
And so we work so hard to stay safe when really, if we just exercise a little bit of bravery, we'd be able to take back some control of our lives. And I think that, certainly control is a major issue in our lives. We like to have control, and we feel like when we're safe, we have control. But, again, as you said, there's so many other variables that we don't have control over. And so when we act brave, when we behave brave, then we can take back control of some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
So as we're redefining, the other day I was listening to this great TED Talk. And that's what I do when I'm riding in the car. I just listen to other people talk. If I'm not talking, I'm listening to somebody else talk. So it's good. And it was a great TED Talk by this woman named Reshma Saujani. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's the founder and CEO of this group called Girls Who Code. And she talked a lot about bravery. And in her view, she was talking about the way in which girls are often raised to be perfect as opposed to take risks. We encourage our boys to take risks. We set up jump ramps for them for their bicycles. We do all these things for our boys so that they take risks and they risk injury. They push their limits. But with girls, we don't do that. We sort of protect them. We want them to play in a safe place, under safe situations, safe areas. And what she was talking about was this really stunts some of the emotional and intellectual growth in girls. And so she started this group called Girls Who Code because one of the things she was saying is that so often we push boys to explore and to try these different technological advances, but we don't do that with girls. We have girls doing other things, and we keep pushing boys in these technology areas and things like that. And so she started this company, which I think is fantastic because one of the points she made was something I had not thought of. Girls consistently score better than boys on most academic testing up until high school. Sure. Girls score better than boys in science, better than boys in math. We all know that they read better, especially early on. Their language skills tend to be better. But yet, all of the leaders, most of the innovators are all men. And she says, and I think that this is correct, at some point we are taking these skills, or we are removing some of this risk-taking, some of this drive that the girls have. We're taking this out of them, and we're pushing them or guiding them in a different direction, and we're pushing boys into this direction of leadership and of innovation and discovery.
Fascinating.
I thought that was an interesting...
Oh, very.
Yeah, because
it does. It fits with everything that we know already, and I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that we do that, but yet...
But we definitely do.
We absolutely do, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, which kind of brings us to something that I do. Like, at the end of every podcast, those of you who listen regularly, I always end the podcast saying, forget to be afraid. Right. And the reason that I did that and started that is because, and it started back in a previous episode, we were talking about risk-taking a little bit. And the idea is that, so often we become fearful or hesitant or anxious about pushing the limits or stepping outside of our comfort zone. And we do that out of some fear. So
Right.
at some level, it's fear. It's concern that we're not going to be worthy, that we're not good enough, that we can't do it. And so the idea of forget to be afraid, is let's leave those anxieties behind and just take that next step and
Right.
just try to do it. It also is very mindful of Robert Frost's poem, the Road Not Taken.
Oh, yes.
And he talks about those two paths, two roads diverged in the wood. And when we think about these kinds of situations, Robert Frost's poem fits perfectly.
It sure does.
There's the easy way.
Of course.
Safe. Safe, yes. Bright, there's no, the trees don't if we look at it in our mind's eye,
Right.
There's no canopy so that it's bright, well lit.
Kind of clearly marked.
Yeah, it's wide, so even if we kind of waver to the side.
Okay, we're not going to fall off some precipice that,
That's
didn't
right.
know is there.
Everything is okay. It's pretty straight. There's no, all of the potholes have been filled. It's a nice, smooth ride. And sure, that's great, but that's a predictable path,
Right.
and it's not necessarily going to help you fulfill some of the goals and aspirations that you have in life. It's a well-worn path that a lot of people.
But you feel good walking on it.
You do. You feel
Safe. Right.
Even if the safety is a bit of an illusion, you
Sure.
feel safe.
Because I'm sure there's things that could get you on that path.
Right. Yeah. There's still the wolves over there.
Yeah.
There's still the armadillos.
That
They make me
maybe
anxious.
don't see armadillos.
Armadillos make me anxious. They just don't look right. But absolutely, even though you're walking down this brightly lit, well-worn path, there's still unpredictable things
Correct.
that could come out. The other path, there's a little bit more of a guarantee of rocky roads. There are potholes. There are roots growing through the path.
Tree branches.
Yeah, you have that imagination of the remember that scene in the Wizard of Oz,
Yes.
and Dorothy's looking down and it just looks menacing.
Very.
That's the road less taken.
Right.
But that's the road that takes you to Oz. That's the road that takes you where you need to be. And so sometimes we have to take that nasty looking path because that's the path to take.
Oh, but when I'm on path like that, my stomach is all verbally and,
Yeah.
my heartbeat's racing and
Yeah.
it doesn't feel as good as that other path.
It doesn't. But that's where bravery comes in. That's where we have to look at that and say, you know what? I'm going to push through it. Because, one of the reasons that we stop, and we'll kind of get to some steps that we can take to fix this in a few minutes, but one of the things that stops us is because we don't feel like we can sufficiently succeed. So we're worried that as we're going down that path, we're worried that we're not going to be able to navigate it. So we're worried that we don't have the skills needed to make it through that path. Or we're worried that if something comes along, we're not going to be adequate in protecting ourselves, right, or making a decision that we need to make. And so a lot of it comes from self-doubt. And that certainly is something that we have to work on. That's something that we have to build, because many times that self-doubt is artificial. Right. It's not even real.
Right. We have the skills we need.
Yeah. We know how to do this stuff,
it's interesting because I'm listening to you talk and I'm thinking, well, there's no guarantee on that path. There's no guarantee that it's going to get you to Oz. There's no guarantee that you'll get there. No guarantee that you have the skills,
right,
to navigate that path. But yet that's true of the other path as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is no guarantee that path is going to be safe.
Exactly.
So.
Right. The guarantee is always, it's always whitewashed. It's never as absolute as we think it is.
Right.
We like to trick ourselves into thinking that it is, but it's not.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about, I think when this tends to falter.
Okay.
I mentioned this to somebody the other day, and they kind of looked at me sideways, but I think that some of our most brave people, the bravest people that I know, are kids. Think about a toddler.
Oh, yes.
Think about a 1-year-old. How many times does that 10, 11, 12-month-old fall and really get hurt learning to walk?
Sure.
Right.
But they keep on going.
They keep doing it.
Over and over and over again.
What adult would do that? You know, we as adults, we attempt something, and if we fall and we really get hurt, that's it. We're done.
Even if we think we're going to fall
right.
and get hurt, we may refrain.
Right. Because we're just so anxious about it. We don't like to get hurt, of course, so we stop. We don't do anything. And it's really problematic. It's really limits us, and we don't push ourselves as far as we can. And I think that begins in childhood. Right. You know, once we get up and we're running and we're walking and we kind of get through that piece, now all of a sudden parents begin to work really hard to contain.
Correct.
You know, as soon as we start having a little bit of that self-assured freedom, being able to navigate our environment as much as we want, parents put the fence up.
Absolutely.
And contain us.
I know that's kind of instinct. I have 2 small children, and I know as soon as they started walking and really gaining that freedom, that all of a sudden I wanted to say, wait, don't run so fast. Wait, don't test out those wobbly little legs that don't look safe at all to me.
Right.
But they wanted to run and jump and, you know, explore, and they were perfectly fine and brave.
Yeah.
It's me that's cringing and saying, oh no, you know, what if they fall and hit their heads? What if?
Exactly.
And so it goes against instinct to stand back and say, okay, let me let them go. Right.
Absolutely. And I think that just keeps building and building and building until we get to the point where, you know, they're teenagers and they're too nervous to drive across the town, or
right.
To do some of these things that they need to on their own, go off to college. You know, they look for that safety and security of staying at
So you're saying they pick up on kind of our nervousness.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. So in that way, we parent that bravery right out of them. We take it right away from them. So as adults, let's talk about some things that we can do as adults to increase our own bravery. Because these things that we do for ourselves are also perspectives and ideas and things that we would use to take care of our kids, to help increase our kids' bravery. I think that the first thing goes to what we were talking about just a moment ago, and that is you have to remind yourself that you're worthy, that you're worth it. You know, we too often, you know, limit ourselves because we think, I don't know, you know.
Do I really deserve that raise?
Probably not. You know, last quarter I didn't do that, you know, and it was subpar. So, I mean, sure, I've been here for 15 years, but, you know.
And I show up every day. And
yeah, you know. So we have to remind ourselves that we're worth it. We're at least worth a try. We're at least worth an attempt. I don't know what's happening to the videos right now. There's something happening to. Let me stop that real quick. That's crazy.
Looks like one of the videos has just started over.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
there you go. Well, you know what?
4 out of 5 is not bad. That's right.
Risk takers.
We didn't know if it was going to work, but we were going to give it a go.
That's right. And I see that the Facebook one keeps trying to reconnect as well. So we are really pushing the limits of our bandwidth here. But that's all right. You know what? We'll figure it out, and next week it'll get better.
That's right. That's
right. So what were we talking about? Oh, you got to remind yourself that you're worthy.
You are worthy, right.
We're worthy despite the fact that we're going to make mistakes and that we're going to have errors and that our bandwidth is going to be too small to do the things that we need it to do. But that's okay.
No, it's hard, especially when you're battling, I think, all those inner anxieties and all those inner self-doubts where you say, I don't think I can do this, or I don't deserve that promotion.
Mm-hmm.
But again, pushing through.
Absolutely. And again, we do the same thing with our kids. You know, when your kids are going to try something, you know, you have to remind them that it's okay. It's okay. Just give it a shot. It's fine. If you don't make it, we know more. Now we'll know more for the next time.
Right.
So even if we fail, it's just a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. If one video flunks out, that's okay. We've got 4 more.
We've got
next week. We'll aim for all 5.
We've got so many more backups. It's fantastic. So yeah. So the first one is reminding yourself that you're worthy. The second thing, this is the most intuitive one of all, I think, and that's just remind yourself of the benefits. Why am I doing this to begin with? I'm doing this because I would like a raise. I would like more money for what I'm doing.
Right.
That makes sense. But sometimes the benefits, sometimes it takes a little bit more time to consider the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, my boss wants me to take this class. Oh, it's going to be so much work. But the benefit is I'm going to learn something more. I'm going to have a new skill. I may be eligible for another promotion or a new position. Worst case scenario, something happens with this company. Again, now I have a new skill that I can use to get to the next level and get to the next place with the next job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So reminding yourself of the benefits, talking to yourself about the benefits, writing them down even, all of them that you can think of. The third step, well, that's the other side. Try to identify the risks. A lot of times we emphasize minimizing the risks or kind of saying, it's good. Let's just put the risks aside. Just focus on the benefits. It's going to be fine. And that's great in some situations. But I know that for me, it's better for me to be prepared.
Right.
For example, thinking about this whole setup, we have all of these redundancies in place just in case something like that happens. So we had the expectation that there could be a risk, and so we put things in place to hopefully have a good audio recording for the podcast, despite the iPad going down on the YouTube feed and making noise back there.
I think that helps so much too with kind of decreasing some of that anxiety, and so we do feel just a little bit better, because even though it's a risk, even though the risks, if you can kind of prepare yourself and say, hey, look, which of course the more prepared you feel, the more you're able to say, I've got this,
right, and
kind of go ahead forward. It all kind of goes together and helps.
Absolutely. And the great thing about this third step is that if in the end you fail, the next time you try, you have a new thing to add to that list of risks to prepare for. Now okay, last time I didn't prepare for this as a possibility, so I'm going to add that to my new list so that now I'm going to be prepared for that next time. And so we continually learn ways to increase our likelihood of success and the likelihood that this risk that we're taking is going to pay off.
Absolutely. Plus, I love that idea of writing it down where you have a clear-cut kind of pro and con list or benefit risk list where you can clearly see, even though there are risks and they might be scary risks, here are all the benefits that clearly outweigh or hopefully outweigh.
Absolutely. So reminding yourself that you're worthy, identifying the benefits, identifying the risks. Step 4 is looking for that first step. Okay? Now, sometimes the first step is just reminding yourself that you're worthy.
Right.
Sometimes the first step is that risk-benefit piece. But sometimes you get through those first 3 steps okay, and you're like, okay, I don't know where to start.
Right.
What do I do now? This is where I am. That's where I want to be. Where do I go? What do I do? What's that first step?
Or where you want to be eventually. And then that's such a huge step that then it's very easy to turn around and say, oh, it's not worth it at all. I don't even know where to begin. Never mind.
Right. Because you're absolutely right. Because that, each of these steps is a place that we tend to falter, that we tend to limit ourselves. And when we don't see that first step, that's when we say, okay, maybe this was a bad idea.
Too much.
Yeah.
Too much. There's no way I can get from point A to point F.
Right.
But if you just have to get to point A.
Right.
Not so bad.
Exactly. That always reminds me of that scene in Indiana Jones, the Last Crusade.
Okay.
When he is going through and he has to take that step of faith.
Oh yes.
That was fantastic.
With the bricks, right?
Yeah, and he couldn't see it, and Harrison Ford's such a great actor, but just his exasperation at that moment, he's like, okay, I just got to do it. And he closes his eyes and takes that step. It wasn't a blind step, which is kind of bleeding into number 5 here, but it's not a completely blind step, but it's a step. Right. Sometimes you identify what you think is the first step, and that's not the first step. That's okay. Now you know that that's not the first step, and so now you look around and you find what step's going to get you back on track to where you need to be. We are so fearful of failure that it paralyzes us from trying anything, from doing anything. And sometimes just trying gets you moving.
Oh, yes. I think success breeds success.
Yes.
So one little baby step of success, if you can get through, yes, I'm worthy, and here are the risks and benefits. If you can just take one step in the general direction of what you're aiming for, is amazing in and of itself, and will help you get to the next step.
Absolutely. It's that first step is so important. Right. And then, of course, not looking back and all the other things that we talk about with perseverance and all that kind of stuff. So reminding yourself that you're worthy, identifying the benefits, identifying the risks, identifying the first step, and then what's number 5? Do it. Jump. Take that step. Whether we want to call it a leap of faith, whether we want to call it, the Nike Just Do It, whatever we want to say, however we want to refer to it. Step 5 is implementing, making it happen. And as I said a moment ago, it's not, even if we go back to that Last Crusade scene with Indiana Jones, it wasn't a blind leap of faith. We tend to think, that leap of faith, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen, it's completely blind. No, it's, faith requires some knowledge, right. And so if you know that this is the direction that you're going, that first step is in that direction somewhere. He as he's standing at that opening and he sees the other opening over there, he knows that the path that he has to be on is right there in front of him between where he is and where that other opening is. Right. So it's got to be there. If he would have said, oh, maybe it's over here, and he would have stepped over there, well, there wouldn't have been an episode 4, right. Which wouldn't have been that bad of a thing. It wasn't a great movie. I still don't understand the refrigerator thing, but anyways. So did I lose you with the refrigerator thing?
Yes, I'm trying to picture, but I can't.
The crystal skulls, at the beginning, he gets inside a refrigerator and a nuclear bomb goes off and he flies like hundreds of yards away, and then he just gets out of the refrigerator and everything's like cool.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. They used to make refrigerators like very durable and impact resistant. It's fantastic.
Good to know.
So, but, we're not talking about just taking a blind step, a blind leap. We're talking about understanding your situation, knowing where you are, where you're going, and moving in that direction, and then just doing it.
Absolutely.
And again, even if it's wrong, you can adjust.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of visualize jumping out of a plane. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I often, and I joke around here, I joke with some of our coworkers that, I'll go up into the plane, but then I'm going to get to the side of the plane ready to jump out, and someone's going to have to get behind me and just give me that push.
Right.
But the truth is, I wouldn't be up in that plane if I didn't already take the training to jump out of the plane, if I didn't have my parachute, if I didn't check it and double check it. Again, there's no guarantee that it'll work, but a lot of times I understand you have a secondary parachute just in case, and you can adjust as you go down and all that good stuff. But so I joke I need that push, but sometimes it's I'm there. You just gotta jump.
Right. Absolutely. And you see a lot of videos of people in that kind of situation, and they close their eyes.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to see myself do it, but that's okay if that's what it takes. That's great. And if you are the type of person that needs that push, there you go. We pushed you.
Absolutely. How many times have you told me, "Hey, come on the podcast?" And I've admitted to you the video makes me a little nervous, but here we are. Yeah. Worst thing that happens, one of the videos stopped working.
Yeah.
We're all right.
Yeah, we're fine. Right? We're good. Because we adapt and we just shift, and we laugh about it. So we like to laugh.
We like to laugh.
So again, we have these 5 steps: reminding yourself that you're worthy, identifying the benefits, identifying the risks, finding that first step, and then doing it, jumping. These 5 things, exactly the same things that you would do to breed bravery in your kids. You know, it's so sad to me when we have, when I look at kids' work, their school work, and they see problems that they felt are too difficult for them, so they don't even try. And you think, well, if you just began the process, and I'll sit down with kids and I'll say, well, you know how to do this part, right? And they say, yeah. And I say, well, let's do this part. And well, you know how to do this part, right? And I say, yeah, so let's do this part. Now, if we look at what's left, you know how to do that, right? And he goes, oh, well, yeah. And so now we've solved the problem, but when they look at it and they say, oh, this is too hard for me, and they don't even try, that need to be safe, that need to be, that fear of presenting as wrong,
right.
Again, can be paralyzing. And so we need to do the same thing with our kids. You know what? It's okay to be wrong.
It's okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you're wrong, you just figure out what's not right the next time. And so you can prevent from making the same mistake again. Right?
Absolutely.
It works.
Absolutely.
It works.
What's the worst that's going to happen?
If you try and you're wrong, well, it's not any different than being wrong because you didn't try. So you might as well try.
You might as well try. At least you have a shot.
That's right. So be brave, folks. Man, it would be good. It would have been great to end it right there. And that's it. So, well, I think that is it for the podcast today. Just a couple of reminders. Of course, the Handbook for Raising an Emotionally Healthy Child, Part 1, Behavior Management, is available on Kindle. It's a great resource. It gives you access to an online site that has a lot of other resources. So the resources are endless. And we're working on Parts 2 and 3 as we speak. The Elimination Diet Manual is also available on Kindle. It's another great resource to help you see how your diet and things that you're eating daily could be affecting your physical and mental health. You can figure it out in about a month or so, figure out what's going on with you and hopefully fix it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I say this every week, but the ADHD, Parenting Your ADHD Child course, we're working on it. It's good. And I'm going to blame, is it okay to blame Richard? I'm going to blame Dr. Richard because he's been out of the office for a few weeks. And so, Richard, I need you to come back. I need you back.
I don't think that he's on a beach somewhere lying in the sun, though. Just to put that out there, but we definitely do want you back.
That's right. But we are working on that course, and we will have it out and available for everybody as soon as we can. So, any other announcements?
I think that's it.
Thanks for listening. I saw that the Facebook thing was iffy. I think it was hit and miss. The YouTube thing went down. It went down, but so there are worse things. There are worse things. But we still have this video, which I'm pointing to the different cameras. This video, which we'll be able to put on YouTube, so you'll have the whole thing there. So, all right. Well, I guess that's it. So until next time, I'm Dr. Berney. I'm Dr. Ellen. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week. Forget to be afraid.